Hi, I'm Erin from the Earth Pigments Company, and today I'm going to be applying a pigmented or tinted lime wash to this block wall behind me. It's an exterior application, but the rules for interior and exterior are pretty much the same. At the end of the video there will be a link to more detailed instructions for preparing lime washes. But first we need to talk about safety, because we are dealing with lime, which is caustic. Caustic means it can burn. So as you can see, I've got long sleeves to protect my skin. I'm wearing gloves. And I'm going to be wearing safety glasses because applying lime wash is very messy and sloppy, and you have to be aware that it could splash into your eyes. The first thing we're going to do to prepare this wall is we're going to put a primer on. The primer is very simple. It's by volume 20 parts of water to 1 part of lime powder. You stir it really well, and you're going to have to continue to stir it during application because that lime's going to want to settle down to the bottom of the bucket. The primer, the purpose of it is to prepare this surface by first pre-dampening it so that it's the proper dampness. And secondly, it will get some lime down into the surface so that it will be more chemically compatible to marry with that lime wash that you put on top. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm going to do a quick re-stir to my primer. I've got 10 quarts of water and I've put in half a quart of lime. Remember, you have to re-stir before you apply. The brush that I'm going to use for both the primer and for the lime wash is this readily available 4-inch brush. It's a large brush, it's got long bristles on it. It's a combination of nylon and polyester. You don't want to use a 100% nylon brush. This works much better. And what you're going to do is what we call a cross-hatch technique, like this. As you can see, it's very messy. This cross-hatching is what works the lime down into the surface. What I want to show you is how to judge proper dampness. Now, I've decided that, in fact, I am going to pre-mist this wall, because as you can see, even as I'm applying it, it's being sucked down into the wall so quickly that it's leaving this lime sitting on top. I want to pre-mist now because I want it to not suck down so quickly that it's drying as I'm applying, the water's being sucked away, and the lime is left sitting on top. So when you mist the wall, you want to be sure that you're just giving it a light mist. You definitely don't want to soak the wall so that it's dripping wet, because you want to get going with your lime wash. So we're just getting a light misting of water onto the wall and letting that soak in right about there. Good. Now we'll go back to our primer. We're going to wait just a minute here. We want to see that we've not got a dripping wall, but as you can see, it's still misted. If you need to re-mist as you're applying, keep your hose handy so that you can keep the wall at the proper dampness. Now you can see that it's not sucking down so quickly and drying so quickly. We've got some drip marks starting here, which is normal. When you're applying, you're going to have some material dripping down. It's important to use that cross-hatching technique to get rid of those drip marks and give a more pleasing look to the eye, because remember, lime wash is a translucent coating, and those drip marks would show through on your final wall. Okay, we've now come back. Our wall is ready for its first coat of lime wash because the primer has now dried. As you can see, I'm going to be mixing lime, so I've got my mask on because you don't want to breathe in any lime dust or even pigment dust. It's important for your safety. I've got my bucket. I've got it filled with the proper measure of water. I'm then going to add the dry ingredients slowly while I continue to stir. Don't dump everything in at once. Pour a little bit and continually stir. It's important that you pour the water in first and pour the dry ingredients into the water to keep the dust down. If you were to put all your dry ingredients in there and then put your water in, you would end up creating a lot of dust, which is what we want to avoid. So I've got my kilo of lime, and I'm just going to pour a little bit in, mix around, pour a little bit in. And again, you want to avoid breathing in that dust. Try and keep the dust down as much as possible. Now my pigment is pre-measured. It's actually a mix of ultramarine blue and red iron oxide to make a beautiful purple. It's an oxide pigment. You will get lighter colors with the natural earths and ochres. You'll get darker colors with oxides. I'm going to add into the slime wash an additional binder. Additional binders are important when you've got pigment, especially in the wash, because you want to give yourself the insurance that this is going to stay where you put it. This is a decorative coating. You don't want to have to come back and do this every year. So I've got about a cup of acrylic binder in the mix. I'm going to stir this thoroughly. I'm going to let it sit for 20 minutes, and then we'll be ready to do our first coat of our colored tinted lime wash. We are now applying our first coat. As you can see, I've started over here. I have taken my fully mixed lime wash that has been allowed to rest for 20 minutes, and I've stirred it again to make sure it's completely emulsified, and I've poured it into this shallower container. The purpose of this is so that my bristles on my brush can reach the bottom of the container and stir continuously as I paint. So with each pass of the brush, I'm stirring and then I'm applying, going in a cross-hatched motion as we apply, because it will sometimes drip as you're applying it. We're going in vertical stripes. We're not going across the top and then over. We're going in narrow vertical strips so that we can minimize any dripping that might telegraph through in the final wash. You've got to work this down into the surface, and you've got to create a pleasing effect to the eye of your final wash. You'll see areas where there's a little bit of depth to the surface texture. You may want to go in and go over those areas again. And certainly in your subsequent coats, those will be filled in. Stirring with each pass of the brush to be sure that my pigment stays suspended. So it's important for consistency to keep it constantly stirred. Lime wash will appear a lot darker when it's wet, so it's important to do your test samples and evaluate the color when it's completely dry. Subsequent coats will build on the effect and color a lime wash produces. And here is our finished wall with 3 coats of a simple lime wash. As you can see, it's not a static monotone color. This is the character of this versatile medium. It allows lots of room for artistic expression by simply modifying the recipe or your application technique. For more information and detailed instructions, visit us at earthpigments.com.